Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on my channel. Today we're going to be looking into the future of the Oklahoma City Thunder and if the Russel Westbrook trade was worth it for the OKC Thunder, and if the OKC Thunder should try to trade Chris Paul away or keep him. Hopefully you guys enjoy. So diving right into the video here, what is the future of the OKC Thunder? So first we're going to be looking into the Russel Westbrook trade. Chris Paul was a big part of the Russel Westbrook trade during the 2019 NBA offseason. This is what their trade looked like. The Rockets received Russel Westbrook, the Thunder received Chris Paul, and a bunch of picks. Pretty high picks, but the Thunder fans still weren't too happy when the trade happened. Actually, not happy at all. So was the trade worth it? Originally, when this trade happened, the Oklahoma City Thunder fans were really mad because Paul George was gone, but they still had Westbrook. But then he got traded away as well to the Houston Rockets. And in return, they got a bunch of draft picks and Chris Paul, who they were saying was way overpaid. However, now, even though we don't know how those picks will end up, and if they will draft a bunch of busts or NBA stars, or maybe even a Hall of Famer, as of now, this trade is looking as good as it could have been after the trade happened. So not necessarily saying this was a good trade, or that this was the best trade possible that the Oklahoma City Thunder could have made, but after making the trade, as of now, this is the best that it could have possibly been. This is because Chris Paul has been playing extremely well, and now Chris Paul has a high value, so they can even trade him away if they want to. Overall, I think this is because this is also the best that the Oklahoma City Thunder front office could have expected after making the trade. Overall, unless the Thunder front office had extremely unrealistic expectations, at least for the front office, this was a pretty decent trade, and maybe even a good trade depending on how good those draft picks will be. So are they rebuilding? This year, the Thunder actually did make the playoffs, despite most of the NBA saying that it was a bad trade and that the Thunder would be bad and wouldn't make the playoffs and even start rebuilding their team, and that they should start rebuilding their team. But now NBA fans are wondering if they will start rebuilding. I personally think they will start possibly rebuilding a bit. When I say this, I mean like start bringing young talent and taking away some veterans and older players. But now NBA but I think they should still, as of right now, just not go 100% rebuild and maybe start rebuilding a tiny bit. However, Billy Donovan did a pretty good job, but for next year it will be a new coach. The Thunder will also have 4 players on their team that will become free agents during the 2020 NBA offseason, in Danilo Gallinari, Andre Robertson, Nerlens Noel, and Devin Hall. So the roster, I think the Thunder will definitely try to re-sign Danilo Gallinari. However, Dennis Schroeder, Steven Adams, and Chris Paul, who are 3 very important players for the Thunder's success, already will still be on the contract next season. Other young players that have a lot of talent that include LeGwent Dort, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Darius Bazley, who they could possibly build around if they are trying to rebuild, and are also still on a contract who should keep on improving, which is why they might possibly build around those players in the future, but we'll just have to see. So will Chris Paul be traded away during the off season? Chris Paul is currently on a 4-year, $159 million contract. Chris Paul signed this contract during the 2018 NBA offseason with the Houston Rockets. But so this contract will end after the 2021-2022 NBA season. This season, Chris Paul exceeded expectations and averaged 17.6 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, 6.7 assists per game, while shooting 48.9% from the field, 36.5% from the three-point line, 19.7% from the line, and with a true shooting percentage of 61% while playing 31.5 minutes per game. It obviously depends on what other teams are willing to trade for Chris Paul. Chris Paul is still a bit overpaid, at least a bit. However, less than the Houston Rockets thought he was when they traded him away to the Thunder, along with picks for Russel Westbrook. I don't think OKC will trade with a team like the Sixers, though, with Al Horford and Tobias Harris, who are both overpaid. So unless the OKC are offered some really good young talent or some veteran with some picks, I don't think they will trade him away. I do think there is a chance of other teams willing to give a lot for Chris Paul because of his performance this year, and also the fact that even if he isn't great, he is a veteran and he used to be the best point guard in the entire NBA and one of the best players in the entire NBA. So obviously, he can teach the young players on their roster, and his contract only has 2 years remaining, which is 1 year less than it was last year when the Rockets traded him away. So how will Chris Paul staying on the Thunder help the Thunder? So this also applies to many other teams, but if the Thunder are currently even if they are trying to rebuild, Chris Paul would be very important because young talent will be very important. Currently, the Thunder already do have a lot of young talent. Currently, in the NBA draft, the Thunder don't really have a very high pick, with a late first round pick, and another pick in the second round. But even with this pick, if they have Chris Paul, he can mentor the rookie maybe, especially if he is a point guard. And we've seen many people drafted late in the NBA draft that are actually pretty good. Even if he isn't to help him even if he isn't a point guard, to help him adjust to the NBA and make him a better player, which was seen in the 2019-20 NBA season when Chris Paul mentored Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Chris Paul can continue to mentor other players that have been on the team since the 2019-20 season as well, and possibly also mentor other players the Thunder acquire in the NBA offseason this year. So for my conclusions, overall, next year is still definitely depends on what the Thunder will do and if Chris Paul will be staying or not. But I think they have a lot of young talent, and if they want to rebuild, they can do so. I personally think the Thunder would benefit more from Chris Paul staying, unless there is a really good trade option. As I said earlier, someone with really good young talent, or a veteran along with maybe some picks. I think they should also try to re-sign Danilo Gallinari, which I am almost sure they will do, even though this year was one of the best playoff runs in a while. They may start rebuilding if it doesn't go too well, but I think it will go pretty well because obviously even though they only made the first round, people were saying they wouldn't even make the playoffs, and they went to 7 games, which is better than it has been in a long time. So the OKC Thunder definitely can make the playoffs next year again, and if they want to rebuild, they can. But I just don't think they should quite yet. We will also see soon who the Thunder's next coach will be. So guys, hopefully you did enjoy that video. If you did, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Comment down below if you want to see any video in particular. And subscribe for more content like this.